My wife laughed to her friends. He's so emotionally weak, it's like being married to a girlfriend, not a husband. I said, understood, shut off every bit of emotional support overnight. Weeks later, she finally noticed only after someone else valued. Guys, I'm sitting in my classroom after hours trying to process something that happened last weekend, and I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting or finally seeing clearly. I'm 34M, high school history teacher here in Minneapolis. Been married to Claire, 31F, marketing coordinator, for 6 years. We met in college, got married young, always thought we had a solid relationship built on good communication and emotional honesty. I've always been what you'd call an emotionally available guy. I cry during movies, I talk about my feelings, I check in on how Claire's day went, and actually listen to the answers. My dad was the strong silent type who never showed emotion, and I swore I'd be different. Better. Claire always said she loved that about me, said it made her feel safe to be with someone who wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. 6 years of marriage, and I thought we were doing great on the communication front. Last Saturday, I came home early from grading papers at school. Claire was having her monthly girls' night. Megan, Brooke, and Ashley from her marketing firm. They do this wine and gossip thing every few weeks, usually at our place. I was planning to just grab a snack from the kitchen and head upstairs to let them have their space, but as I'm walking past the living room, I hear my name and stop to listen. Claire's voice. Oh my God, you guys. Grant cried during that stupid Hallmark movie last night, like actually teared up at the part where the guy proposes. The friends start giggling. Then Megan goes, You, seriously? Tyler would never. That's so emotionally weak, Claire finishes. I know, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm married to my girlfriend instead of my husband. More laughter. Then Ashley chimes in. At least he talks about his feelings, though. Remember when Derek went through that phase where he'd ask me about my emotional needs all the time? So exhausting. Claire. Grant does that too. Every day it's, how was your day, baby? And, what are you thinking about? And, do you want to talk about what's bothering you? Like, sometimes I just want to watch Netflix without a therapy session. Brooke. Men are either emotionally unavailable assholes or emotional sponges. There's no middle ground. Claire. Exactly. Like, I appreciate that he's not some toxic masculine stereotype, but sometimes I miss dating guys who didn't need constant emotional check-ins. Remember Brad from college? He'd never ask about my feelings, but damn, he had that confident energy. They all start laughing and agreeing, swapping stories about their overly sensitive partners versus their real man exes. I stood there in my own hallway listening to my wife of 6 years describe my emotional availability, the thing she always said she loved about me, as weakness. Listening to her mock me for crying at movies, for caring about her feelings, for being the kind of husband I thought she wanted. The conversation went on for another 10 minutes. Stories about me being needy when I asked if she was okay after bad days at work. Jokes about my therapy voice when I tried to help her process stress. Even making fun of the way I said I love you before we went to sleep every night. I quietly went back outside, sat in my car for 20 minutes, then came back in loud enough for them to hear me. By the time I got to the living room, they were talking about some Netflix show like nothing had happened. Claire smiled at me. Hey babe, how was grading? We're just finishing up here. I said hi to everyone, grabbed some water, and went upstairs. Acted completely normal. But something fundamental had shifted. Here's the thing. I wasn't angry. I was clarified, like someone had turned on a light and I could finally see the situation clearly. For 6 years, I've been emotionally available to this woman. I've listened to her work drama, supported her through family issues, celebrated her wins, comforted her through losses. I've shared my own struggles, been vulnerable about my insecurities, trusted her with the parts of myself I don't show anyone else. And she's been taking all of that emotional labor and turning it into comedy material for her friends. So I decided to stop. Not in an angry way, not passive-aggressively, just stop. Sunday morning, Claire asked how I slept. Instead of our usual pretty good, had that weird dream about work again though conversation, I just said, fine, thanks. She asked what I wanted to do for the day. Usually I'd suggest something we could do together. ask what she was in the mood for, make it a whole discussion. Instead, I said, I'm going to prep lessons and maybe hit the gym. You do whatever you want. No more emotional check-ins. No more, how was your day? Followed by 20 minutes of supportive listening. No more sharing my own feelings or asking about hers. It's been 5 days, and the change is remarkable. I'm not being mean or cold. I'm still helpful around the house, still polite and pleasant. We still watch TV together and talk about practical stuff. But the emotional intimacy, gone. Completely shut off. And Claire hasn't noticed yet. That might be the most telling part of all. She's so used to my emotional availability that she doesn't even register when it's not there. She's been coasting on my emotional labor for so long that its absence just feels like normal interaction to her. Meanwhile, I feel lighter, like I've been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there. Derek, my buddy who coaches football at the school, noticed the change immediately. You seem different, man. More relaxed. My students have noticed too. Apparently, I've been more focused in class, less distracted by relationship stuff, more present for them. Ironic, considering I'm supposed to be dealing with emotional turmoil. But here's what I keep coming back to. If Claire thinks emotional availability is weakness, if she finds my vulnerability exhausting, if she's embarrassed by my sensitivity, then she doesn't get access to it anymore. I've spent 6 years trying to be the emotionally intelligent husband I thought she wanted. Turns out she wanted the benefits of emotional labor without respecting the person providing it. So Reddit, am I being petty? Should I confront her about what I heard? Or am I finally learning healthy boundaries about who deserves my emotional energy? Part of me feels like I should talk to her about this. But another part of me thinks that if she respected my emotions, she wouldn't have been mocking them to her friends in the first place. Update 1. Well, Reddit. It's been 3 weeks since I went emotionally dark, and the results are interesting. Quick recap. Overheard wife Claire mocking my emotional availability to her friends, calling me weak for things like caring about her feelings and showing emotion. So I stopped doing both. The first 2 weeks were fascinating from an anthropological perspective. Claire genuinely didn't notice that I'd stopped being emotionally available. She'd talk about work drama and I'd say, "That sounds frustrating." Instead of diving deep into supportive listening mode, she'd seem slightly confused for a second, then just move on. It was like watching someone try to use a vending machine that looked normal but didn't actually dispense anything. She'd put in her emotional coin, expect her usual supportive snack, get nothing, then just shrug and walk away. But week 3? Week 3 she started noticing. It started with small comments. "You're being weird lately. Are you mad at me? Why are you so distant?" I'd respond with things like, "I'm not weird, just focused on work," or, "Not mad, just busy with lesson planning." All technically true. The turning point was Tuesday night. Claire had a rough day at her marketing job. Some client crisis, long hours, general frustration. She came home clearly wanting to vent and process and get emotional support. Old Grant would have immediately stopped grading papers, made her a cup of tea, and spent an hour listening to every detail while offering encouragement and perspective. New Grant looked up from his laptop and said, "Sorry you had a tough day. I'm going to finish these quizzes." She just stood there in the kitchen holding her work bag, looking completely lost, like she'd walked into a room and forgotten why she came in. "That's it?" she asked. "What do you mean? You're not going to ask about it? You said you had a tough day." I acknowledged it. "Did you need something else?" She stared at me for a minute, then went upstairs without another word. Wednesday, she tried again. Some drama with her friend group. Apparently Megan and Ashley had a fight about something ridiculous. Usually this would be a 30-minute debrief where I'd help her navigate the social dynamics and validate her feelings. Instead, when she brought it up, I said, "Sounds complicated. I'm sure you'll figure it out." That's your advice? I'll figure it out. You're smart and you know your friends. I trust your judgment." She looked so confused. "But don't you want to know what happened?" "Not particularly. It's your friend group." Thursday night, she finally lost it. "Okay, what the hell is going on with you? You've been acting like a robot for weeks. Are we having a fight I don't know about? Are you depressed? Are you having an affair?" I could have laughed at that last one. An affair? With what emotional energy? "I'm not having an affair. I'm not depressed, and we're not fighting. I've just been focusing on my own stuff lately. But what about US stuff? What about our relationship? This is where it got interesting. I looked at her and realized that our relationship had been me providing emotional labor while she consumed it. Now that I'd stopped providing, there wasn't much left. What about our relationship? I asked. You don't talk to me anymore. Not really. You don't ask about my day. You don't share your feelings. You don't seem to care. I care about practical things. I care that you're safe and healthy. I care about our shared responsibilities. But your emotional processing, that's your job now. She looked like I'd slapped her. My job? Grant, we're married. We're supposed to support each other. Support goes both ways, Claire. You support me, I support you. But if one person thinks the other person's emotions are embarrassing, I didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. She spent Friday trying to be extra affectionate. Lots of physical touch, compliments, trying to re-establish intimacy. But it felt hollow because the emotional foundation wasn't there anymore. Meanwhile, my life has dramatically improved. My teaching is the best it's ever been. I have more mental energy for my students because I'm not constantly processing someone else's emotional needs. My lesson plans are more creative, my classroom management is more confident, my relationships with colleagues are stronger. Derek noticed the change immediately. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You seem like yourself again. Even my students have commented. One of my juniors said, "Mr. Sullivan, you seem happier lately, like, more present." Because I am more present. When your emotional energy isn't being constantly drained by someone who doesn't appreciate it, you have more to give to people who do. I've been thinking a lot about what Claire said. We're supposed to support each other. She's right. But support requires respect. And you can't respect someone while simultaneously mocking them to your friends. For 6 years, I've been Claire's emotional support system. Her unpaid therapist, her validation source, her feelings processor. And the whole time, she's been embarrassed by the very qualities that made me good at those roles. So now she gets the husband she actually wanted, emotionally unavailable, focused on practical matters, not bothering her with feelings or emotional needs. The irony is beautiful. Update 2 Reddit. The conversation finally happened, and it went exactly as I expected, and nothing like I expected at the same time. 6 weeks of emotional unavailability finally broke Claire down. She'd been getting increasingly desperate, trying to initiate deep conversations, asking if I was okay, even suggesting couples therapy, which would have been hilarious if it wasn't so telling. Thursday night, she cornered me in our bedroom and demanded answers. "Grant, I know something happened. You don't just change your entire personality overnight. Tell me what I did wrong." I was grading papers on my laptop, and I didn't even look up. Nothing dramatic. I just realized I was giving you something you didn't value, so I stopped. "What are you talking about? What wasn't I valuing?" That's when I decided to be direct. My emotions, my vulnerability, my emotional availability. She got defensive immediately. "That's not true. I love that you're emotional. I love that you're sensitive." I finally looked up. "Do you? Because 3 weeks ago you were telling your friends that I'm emotionally weak, that you feel like you're married to your girlfriend instead of your husband." The color drained from her face. You heard that?" "I heard all of it. The jokes about me crying at movies, the complaints about my therapy voice, the stories about how exhausting it is that I care about your feelings." She sat down on the bed like her legs had given out. "Grant, that was just girl talk. I was just venting. I didn't mean it." "You laughed, Claire. You all laughed about how weak and needy I am. For 20 minutes. But I love you. I love who you are. No, you love what I provide. There's a difference." That's when she started crying. Real tears, not manipulative ones. I made a mistake. I was just, I don't know, trying to fit in with my friends. They all complain about their husbands and I felt left out. "So you invented complaints about me?" "Not invented. Just exaggerated. Made things sound worse than they were." I closed my laptop. "Claire, you told your friends that my emotional availability is weakness, that caring about your feelings is exhausting, that you wish you were with someone more like your college boyfriend who didn't give a shit about your emotional needs. I never said I wished I was with Brad. You said you missed dating guys who didn't need constant emotional check-ins, guys with that confident energy. What do you think that meant? She was full-on sobbing now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were listening. I didn't know it would hurt you. You're sorry I heard it. That's different from being sorry you said it. No. I'm sorry I said it too. I want my husband back. I want us back. This is where it got interesting. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 6 years, crying because she'd lost access to something she'd been taking for granted while actively disrespecting. Claire, who do you think your husband is? What do you mean? The man you want back. Describe him. You. The real you. The one who asks about my day and listens to my problems and makes me feel heard and supported. The emotionally weak one, the one who needs constant emotional check-ins, the one who's exhausting to be around. I didn't mean those things. You meant them enough to say them to your friends for entertainment. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then she tried a different approach. What do I have to do? To fix this? To get you to trust me again? I'd been thinking about this question for weeks. I don't know if you can. Please. There has to be something. Claire, the problem isn't what you said to your friends. The problem is that you felt those things in the first place. You were embarrassed by my sensitivity. You found my emotional availability burdensome. You can't just unsee that. But I was wrong. I realize now how much you do for me emotionally. I didn't appreciate it before, but I do now. You appreciate it now because it's gone. But what happens in 6 months when you get used to having it back? When your friends are complaining about their husbands again and you want something to contribute? She didn't have an answer for that. I need you to understand something, I continued. My emotional availability isn't a service I provide. It's not something you're entitled to because we're married. It's a gift I choose to give to people who respect it. I respect it. You respect needing it. That's not the same thing. The conversation went on for another hour. She cried, apologized, promised to do better, suggested therapy again. But here's what I realized. Claire doesn't want to fix our relationship. She wants to restore her access to my emotional labor. Those are completely different things. She wants the husband who makes her feel heard and supported, but she doesn't want to be the wife who makes her husband feel respected and valued. She wants me to go back to being vulnerable with her, but she hasn't done anything to rebuild the safety that vulnerability requires. And honestly, I don't want to go back. 6 weeks of emotional self-protection has shown me what life is like when I'm not constantly managing someone else's feelings while my own are being mocked behind my back. My teaching is incredible. My friendships are stronger. My self-respect is intact. I told Claire I needed time to think about what she'd said, but honestly, I've already made up my mind. Some things can't be unfelt, and this is one of them. Final update: after our confrontation in November, Claire spent about 2 weeks trying to win me back. Grand gestures, written apologies, promises to respect my emotional availability, even suggesting we move to a different city to start fresh, presumably away from her toxic friends. But it all felt performative, like she was following a script for how to repair your marriage, without actually understanding what was broken. The real test came right before Christmas. Claire's friends were planning their usual holiday party, and she asked if I wanted to come. I said sure. I was curious to see how she'd handle being around the people she'd bonded with by mocking me. The party was exactly what you'd expect. Megan, Brooke, and Ashley doing their usual husband-bashing routine, complaining about their partner's various inadequacies while drinking wine and laughing. For 2 hours, I watched Claire, waiting to see if she'd defend me, redirect conversations, or show any sign that she'd learned something from our recent crisis. Instead, she joined right back in. Not about me directly, she was clearly trying to be careful about that, but she laughed along when Megan called her husband emotionally needy, nodded sympathetically when Ashley complained about her boyfriend wanting to talk about feelings all the time. At one point, Brooke made a joke about men who cry at movies, and all 4 of them lost it laughing. Claire looked directly at me while laughing, like she was testing whether I'd react. I didn't react. I just observed. That night, driving home, Claire asked what I thought of the party. Your friends are exactly who I thought they were, I said. What's that supposed to mean? It means you had a choice tonight between your marriage and your friend group, and you chose your friend group. She tried to argue, said she was just being social and not making things weird. But we both knew what had happened. The next week, I filed for divorce. Claire was shocked. She'd apparently convinced herself that we were working through things and that our marriage was salvageable. The divorce was surprisingly amicable. We had no kids, the house was in my name, and we split our savings cleanly. Claire moved in with Megan temporarily, then got her own apartment closer to her office. But here's the thing that really validated my decision. She immediately started dating again. Within a month of our separation being finalized, she was posting photos with some guy from her company. Someone who, according to Derek, who still has mutual friends, is exactly the type she said she missed. Emotionally unavailable, traditionally masculine, doesn't ask about feelings. She got exactly what she wanted, and so did I. My life has transformed completely. Professionally, I'm thriving. Got promoted to department head, my students are performing better than ever, and I'm genuinely excited about teaching again. When you're not emotionally drained at home, you have so much more energy for work. Personally, I'm dating someone incredible. Jessica is a librarian at the public library downtown. We met at a coffee shop where I was grading papers and she was reading during her lunch break. The difference is night and day. When I told Jessica about a difficult day at work, her response was thoughtful questions and genuine empathy. When I mentioned tearing up during a movie, she said it showed I was capable of deep emotional connection. She appreciates my emotional intelligence instead of being embarrassed by it. She values my sensitivity instead of seeing it as weakness. Most importantly, she would never, ever mock me to her friends. The idea is so foreign to her that when I told her about Claire, she was genuinely shocked that someone could treat their spouse that way. Your emotions are a gift you choose to share with people, she said. Anyone who makes fun of that gift doesn't deserve to receive it. Exactly. Claire occasionally reaches out through mutual friends, asking how I'm doing or mentioning that she misses what we had. But what we had was me giving everything emotionally while she took it for granted and mocked it behind my back. I don't miss that dynamic at all. The house feels peaceful now. I come home to quiet instead of drama. I read books, work on lesson plans, cook meals I actually want to eat. My weekends are my own. When Jessica comes over, we have actual conversations instead of one-sided therapy sessions. We support each other instead of me being her emotional support animal. It's what a healthy relationship should feel like.